¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo están? Muy buenos
Hello,
días.
good morning. How are you? Welcome to this transmission. We will greet all our audience who is with us through all the official channels in CNN Chile and through the site mineralsweek.cl. And we invite you all to share your comments on each one of the panels we have prepared today with our hashtag Minerals Week. I am Sebastián Arrigue, journalist from CNN Chile, and I want to welcome you on behalf of Siemens and the sponsors of this meet, the Center of Innovation of the Catholic University, Anacleto Antonini, the National Mining Society, German Mining Network, and Women in Mining Chile. All of them welcome you to the online conference Siemens Mineral Week, where we're going to cover current affairs important for the mining industry, like the trends in the last contributions of digitalization. We also thank the Rumbo Minero magazine to be with us. We will have presentations from all different success cases from different companies in different countries. For example, South Africa, Australia, United States, Brazil, Peru, each one with its own realities, and of course, Chile. To begin this great event, we will welcome those who will be part of our first panel today. We will have here Edgard Blanco Undersecretary of Mining of Chile, also Diego Hernández, President of Sonami, Chile, Miguel de la Ossa, CEO of Siemens Minerals, Chile-Perú, Miguel Cardozo, Vice President of the Institute of Engineers of Mining of Peru, and Tamara Leves, President of Women in Mining, Chile. And of course, we thank all those professionals, academicians, specialists from the different bodies related to this subject that will be with us during the following days. We will go deeper into the digitalization of the mining industry. We know that currently the competitivity and sustainability issues are very important for everyone, not only for the mining industry, but also in different areas. And it's one of the subjects that we're going to cover together with our panel, Edgard and Tamara, who are here in the studio, and also both Miguel's and Diego, who's with us remotely. Diego, I would like to begin with a question for you. Of course, it's open for the rest of the panel to talk about this subject. Which are the main challenges appearing in the mining processes in this area? Well, in Chile, we have regulatory issues, legal assurance, and the Chilean mining industry, given the low grades of the copper ores, today it's less competitive. We are situated with a cost on about the third quartile of costs. And the challenge is to be able to improve competitivity. And for that, the only way possible is innovation, to introduce innovation in the processes. And the COVID crisis has forced us to jump into the spool and include innovation, which was a subject that was coming in, but sort of in a shy manner. But now we have to include it quicker. Edgard, how do you go deeper into this process? Of course, COVID accelerated all these innovation and productive changes in all industry, but in the mining industry, how do you enter this on time? Well, crisis generates opportunities. In the case of mining, COVID and the crisis we're facing allowed us as an industry to show the maturity of the mining industry in Chile and allowed for us to, during all the pandemic period, for the mining industry to keep on working as an essential industry of our country, where the workers could comply with the protocols, maintain it in a productive manner, and work for the country. So it becomes more effective and present because we have an industry that's going to mining 4.0, which has very important challenges on productivity and sustainability, because we believe that the main industry of our country should be contributing for a long time, but also advancing in a sustainable manner with the environment, with the communities that surround it, and of course, continue to deliver this contribution. So I believe that the opportunity that the COVID pandemic gave us today is being capitalized, and advancing in this mining 4.0 that's going to change the way we mine in Chile. Miguel de la Osa, to be able to identify you correctly and differentiate you from Miguel Cardozo, how do we advance in this technological advances and how these contribute to this accelerated change forced by COVID? Well, basically, we as a technology company, we can see how they have covered it. In the case of mining and specifically COVID, we had several events. One, remote operation, higher stability, and higher productivity. And this is when technologies allow us to do this, and the result is an opening. And I believe that when compared with other industries like automotive, chemistry, and pharmaceuticals, the technologies due to the risk they had. But this situation we had today with lower grades need to be more productive. And the pandemic, the need to operate remotely was a very positive contributive factor. So in the last year overall, the interaction between the different players to find innovative solutions has been incredible, really. It's been a great scenario a few years ago wasn't going to be so easy. Well, this was a forced push, Tamara. Well, the pandemic placed us all under test, and particularly us women, gave us a different possibility to work from a remote location, reconcile our family and personal lives. It's been a lot tougher for women to face this. We see that there is a the burden of the family and your house, but it gave us the possibility to continue working, like the Undersecretary said, maintain the mines operating, and us with work. Miguel Cardozo, I would also like to know your opinion about this process. We will talk of the Peruvian case specifically later, but so in terms of competitiveness, well, in general, the mining industry developed technologically about the growth of the equipment of the teams and also the larger scales of production. But after the latest crisis, which began in 2009 and extended for several years, the mining industry became conscious and had to be more innovative. They were difficult years in the beginning, but we began growing and we began recovering thanks to technology and large team equipment and digitalization and remote operations. This accentuated the consciousness of the mining industry on its lag behind other industries in this development and in the digitalization processes. I think they're obvious, and we have consciousness, and we're clear that we have to advance. And I believe that is what we're doing. We promote innovation in an accelerated manner and very aggressively, and also at a union level, we are advancing a lot. Now, please, we want to remind those who are watching that you can comment on the hashtag Mineral Week, so you can send your comments and your questions. Miguel de la Osa, I would like to go deeper into more specific business in this digitalization process. The use of digitalization and the advance allows us to face these challenges in terms of competitiveness and productivity, sustainability, which are more and more important for the industry as well. So if we could go to something more specific to the industry processes, Miguel, well, there's two issues that for these players in this business are relevant. One is the stability, the capacity to forecast what's going to happen, and the assertiveness and the quick speed at which we make decisions. Today, the mining industry generates an amount of data that not necessarily we're using more in an efficient manner. So in specific terms, there are different scenarios where we can work. One is with the historical data and what we call the digital twins. I can take a process, understand it, simulate it, and do two things: predict how it's going to behave, or eventually identify an early a fault or a failure. And for the mining world, this is extremely important in terms of productivity and minimizing the times when a machine is not working. A fault of a few hours can be catastrophic and have a brutal impact. So a smart management of data and data analysis
juega un rol importante.
and data analytics plays an important role on one hand. And there's another very important aspect that in the design of a new project. Previously, we had an engineering, and everybody worked in a different manner in different platforms that in the engineering and design implementation and maintenance process, we had separated tools. Today, there are platforms that join all this and allow us to work collaboratively from design to the implementation of the plant. This has things that are as simple. So you see a fault, it's not there. So we also have a speed in the decision making, and these are the elements that we can see when in integrated or comprehensive engineering, predictive maintenance, digital management, which all have to do with a fast and adequate management of the information that's available. So this would be a sort of a summarized manner to look at design through maintenance and all the intermediate possibilities to operate. And here in Chile, it is one of the countries where we have very specific examples that we can study. Miguel, in that sense, the use of data is overarching to all the processes of the industry. Yes, before we had transversality was one of the uh, difficult subjects. Data was in silos. So today we have maintenance and use, for example, the purchase of a device from a customer until its operation. And so we can process in different areas. So the overarchingness or the overall view of the process is very important. So it's important for all the industries. Yes, and I also want to comment the words of Miguel to close a myth that exists regarding automation and the use of new technologies as a destroyer of employment. That fear is there, and I've talked to some unions about this, and what Miguel says is a series of opportunities that exist to change the way we mine. For example, we had a lot of truck operators. Today, with automation, this is reduced. But there are several other opportunities appearing to repair them, to maintain the trucks, to manage the networks. And it's not just information. The challenge today is not only from the point of view of technology, but also to prepare the human assets to be able to manage those technologies. And we have to do this together with industry to be able to prepare the people who are going to be operating this mine 4.0.
Sin duda, yo creo que lo que ha
And there are
dicho
different interesting opportunities, Tamara. What the Undersecretary said, Miguel, regarding this new mining, has important and beautiful challenges for women. First of all, it allows us to enter and compete in more equal terms, because this is not a matter of physical prowess. In this mining industry, the jobs can be reconverted. So invites women, those who are still going to enter to mining, which are STEM careers that can work with data and, for example, AI, contribute with this, and also those who are going to reconvert and work towards specializations that the mining industry of the future needs. I believe also that we signed the national policies of gender for science and technology that is going to be in charge of the digitalization of these women in the short term. So we also
En ese sentido,
applaud
¿cuáles
this.
son los
In
desafíos
that sense, which are the challenges from the point of view of human assets for that transformation process in the mining industry in Chile? Well, to train
en todas estas nuevas técnicas,
in this all these new techniques, and also
cambio generacional que requiere cualquier
have the
industria,
generational replacement or change that any industry requires, and those people who are entering the business are well prepared to face these new kind of tasks. It changes the profile to the mining jobs.
la
It
cantidad de
increases
empresas de
the amount of service companies related with these technologies and that provide services to the mining industry, because today, naturally, one mining company by itself or one mine by itself generate all this technology, but they're the users of technology, and the service companies have to expand their market because they are going to be covering a series of mines in parallel. And what's happening today is that
estas tecnologías nuevas
these new technologies begin to be applied to all the industries, and each industry requires an adaptation of those technologies to solve these specific problems. So this is a lot
si nos vamos muchos años atrás,
more interdisciplinary.
la minería,
If we go years back in the mining industry, those professionals were geologists, mining engineers, sometimes mechanical and electrical engineers, and that's it. Today, this is broader, and it needs to be a lot more interdisciplinary and add new disciplines. So at a level of companies, are all the companies prepared to face this process? The large ones, of course, have more resources, but what happens with the mid-sized or smaller companies to be able to leverage this technological change? Doubtlessly, and we saw this in the pandemic, the same could be said with something as simple, which are the sanitary protocols or the safety culture, that a large company that has more resources, more procedures, could face it better than a smaller or small mine or mid-sized mine. But we have seen that all the sector has reacted in the same way. A culture is created that permeates the whole industry. We have less differences between large, mid-sized, and small mines now.
Miguel de la Ossa,
Miguel de la Ossa, Miguel Cardozo, to speak about what's happening in Peru regarding this issue specifically and the human assets and how to leverage these opportunities. How do you see the scenario over there, Miguel? We have to maintain competitiveness and sustainability of the industry. So the new technologies help us to advance in these areas, in both areas. So we need to raise productivity of the company. We need to have all the mechanisms to be able to make safer operations, better controlled operations. And in the case of sustainability, we need to deal also with the impacts that mining can have on the environment, and there are new technologies being developed. We're working a lot with the circular economy, trying to advance in this aspect, and we agree with Diego that this can be done in the larger companies as well as in the smaller companies, but obviously with the differences that the financial backing imposes. And something very important is that part of our future development depends on exploration, and in explorations there's also very important technological advances where we are trying to work to be more effective in the discovery of new ore bodies. But this is an impressive productive growth In 2021, we have recovered and overcome largely the figures of 2020, and in some cases also the ones of 2019 in the first quarter and even in the first 4 months. And this is thanks to that attitude that has been unleashed in all people who are very willing to innovate and find solutions, non-traditional solutions to the problems we're facing. Miguel, and how do you see the midterm situation for the mining industry in Peru? Well, once again, this is a competitiveness and sustainability issue. We can solve the competitiveness problems on our side, advancing in technological solutions, but with a larger investment. The sustainability issue implies that our relationships with all our surroundings, and also we need to be innovative. Here in Peru, we today talk a lot about territorial development and also the need of innovation in the field, and we're supporting through some events like Permi Inspira, which is a program of the Mining Engineer Institute of Peru for the innovation in agriculture in the Andean areas, and all ends up in development for the regions, breaking a little bit with the centralization, traditional centralization of a country which is focused from Lima, but also among the regions in themselves. There is a centralized focus in the central governments of the regions. So we also have to work in innovation, so there is a broader development. This allows us to relate better with our surroundings, and this is very important for the future, considering that the expectations regarding mining in the whole world is very large regarding the role it plays for the general development of the countries. Yes, indeed, Miguel Cardozo, I would like to take some of the points that were stated by Miguel Cardozo to cover them. Regarding this digital transformation process, this, for example, regional development and opportunities that are generated for other areas within Peru or other countries, but at a level of decentralization. Look, I believe that here we have several points that are essential, and I would like to take several of the aspect mentions. Employability, for example. Diego talked about the interdisciplinary of the characteristic of these jobs, but these two things combined have to be looked at in the following way. If we, in this industry, wouldn't take the step, and we thought we would have less jobs because of digitalization, we would make a serious mistake. We would be less competitive, and our jobs would be affected even further. Now, if we achieve and embrace this and take it as our goal, we're going to train an amount of people in technologies, like Diego said, they're interdisciplinary. This professional could work in mining or other industries, because if we talk about AI, Internet of Things, integration, these resources are valid for any industry. So we're providing people with the opportunity of growing. And all those who are present here, industry, technology, academia, universities, institutes, the idea is to prepare people and reconvert them. Now, the possibility of having trained people in different subjects solves two issues. So someone from a remote, distant place can work, and also in terms of diversity of gender, it opens the doors to many people. Today, for example, we have drafted projects with groups that work in India, in Australia, in Peru, in Chile, for a project in Mexico, for example. So this situation allows us the reconversion of capacities and staff that provides us the possibility to be even more inclusive in all the areas, territory, gender, etc. So this provides an opportunity, and of course it helps with sustainability, because if more efficient decision making, it's going to be making better use of the processes. I think we're facing a great opportunity in all aspects. Undersecretary, yes, I couldn't agree more with what Miguel is saying, especially in Chile, when it's a mining country, that we're saying we not only have to get on the wagon, but also we have to push it. We have to push the transformation. We have to push the training of the people that work in mining, because if not, we're going to be left behind. There's a virtuous cycle. Automation, non-conventional renewable energy, electromobility are all intensive in the use of minerals, and they're going to need a lot of minerals that we produce: copper, lithium, rare earth. So we got to get on this wagon and push it. We need to transform our mining industry and be the country that's going to provide the world of the minerals to be able to face this issue, because this is the matter, is to be able to move or derive the sustainability of our industry, to have a planet with less emissions, and we can play a key role in that transformation. Well, I wanted to say that when Miguel and the Undersecretary talk about this transformation, I believe that it's a tremendous opportunity for women, because it's essential to have new capacities and employability, not only in this industry. So what's happening, the good thing is that these competences are being provided for these people, not only women, but to work here or in another industry. And this shows another point, that this hybrid work or new way to do things also requires new leadership. These traditional leaders that the mining companies had, well, we were used to, being in the field, looking at what's happened, the shift and all this. Well, it's a different challenge now. We have this hybrid work manner, remote working. Well, what characteristics does new leadership have? Well, it's an inclusive leadership. Now, you don't have this worker there's always here in the mine, but it's working remotely, it's working in another thing. So this inclusive leadership also requires to generate these competences, to show our capacities, shows that there's a broader spectrum on how this is going to be supervised. So it brings a new challenge and goes towards the development of this new leader. Yeah, it's a thought that is pertinent to the mining industry, but for all of them as well. Remember that with the hashtag Mineral Weeks, you can send your comments through social media to bring your questions to our panelists. We have a question. We have selected one from Nicolas from Atlanta, and writes and asks Hernández, what advice would you give the new generations regarding the development of this industry to those who are beginning their career in the mining industry? Well, they're just beginning. It's a different training, more adequate or adapted to current and future technologies that are being developed. We are seeing here. So I believe that it's a great opportunity to mix capacities as well as the experience of people who have been more years in the industry, and to have a good combination of both to benefit the industry. As the Undersecretary said, everything that is coming to mitigate climate change, electromobility, renewable energies, etc., requires more mining, requires more metal. And the mining industry is an industry that has a lot of future, a lot of past, very solid, but also has a lot of future. And this future needs to be faced with a series of conditions that before were not demanded. I'm talking about several years later: environmental issues, inclusion issues, and also everything that the world and technology is providing in benefit of an industry a cleaner industry, more sustainable, more inclusive industry, and more competitive industry. So this is a great opportunity for the new generations that want to enter this activity or this industry. We have another question. This is for Miguel Cardozo. The use of desalination plant is more frequent in Chile in the mining projects. What is happening in Peru in this matter, Miguel? Yes, in Peru, we have had a similar process, not at the speed that is has happened in Chile, doubtlessly, but it is an alternative. It actually works for the mines that are not far away from the coast. However, the greater issue is that we need to be able to manage water in a much more efficient manner in the continent. Doubtlessly, in Peru, we have more water than in Chile. Therefore, this is also an issue in Peru, which is a high priority issue in Peru. But the mining consumes about 1.5% of the water in Peru, when compared to the agricultural sector, which has about 80%. Therefore, it is assigned to mining. There's a great responsibility of mining because we have fear to have, for example, pollution in the water sources in the areas where we operate. This needs to be improved at the same time that when you're using alternative sources like seawater. There are some desalination plants in Peru, and I believe that for the future, we're going to have many more.
Of course, it's a trend that is stronger and stronger as we get more technological improvements that make it more accessible. We have another question with the hashtag Mineral Week, and you can send your questions for our panelists. And this is for the Undersecretary. The question has to do with encourage funds. What's happening or what's the state thinking about to accelerate the digitalization process and innovation process in this industry from the point of view of the contribution that or support that the state can deliver? Well, we have been present in the advances and especially in big companies. We've seen how remote operation centers have become more normal, common, supported by this drive that we were talking about in the beginning that the COVID imposed on us. But the main challenge for us is to reach with this new technology to the rest of the industry, even if the differences between the big mining and medium mining in our country are not that big. We need to understand that medium mining in Chile can be big mining in anywhere else in the world, because we have companies that are a lot bigger in compared to the standards in other places. And then they are applying automation technologies or data analysis that before used to be very hard to apply, especially because the costs of technology have dropped. Even make it feasible that these companies that have smaller operations can use them. And maybe the biggest challenge is to reach the small mining, not maybe with automation or directly, but with improvements in their processes. And we are doing that, and we have programs in most of the regions supported by the regional governments, and from the mining ministry supporting the productivity of small mining. There's more than 20,000 small mining companies that need support to keep advancing in this industry, that even today, with the scenario of the copper price very high, it's very attractive to start or reactivate. And that gives us big challenges and new challenges, mining lines that are starting operations now that need our support. Thank you, Undersecretary. We have another question for you, Tamara. The question has to do with an advice. There's a lot of young people that are interested in entering the industry. Which advice would you give women that are thinking about going into the mining industry, that start working on it today more than ever? Mining companies, not only big mining companies, that we are working on this on the Women in Mining Roundtable, are doing serious efforts in policies and budget in calling to receive these women into the industry. About around between 11 or 12% of the labor in mining are women, with the expectations of growing. So in the programs to receive women are very attractive. It's an industry that apparently used to be very aggressive or that didn't receive women as well, but that's been changing, and there's an important number of women in important positions in the vertical development. So there's women that are being referent or drivers and to welcome in this beautiful industry that, yes, that's it's more open to women every day. We have another question also that talks from Hector Romero using our Mineral Week hashtag. It's a question for all of you, but I would like to start with Miguel de la Osa to analyze in detail which is the transformation required in the leadership capabilities in companies. Who will be the leaders that will lead the mining companies in this trip for digital transformation? Well, this we've done specific studies, and maybe the ones that are little bit older that have are used to very vertical structures. The transformation, I would say that the capabilities of hearing and promoting collaborative environments is a competence that's most important, to be able to integrate and to invite to participate in a wider and diverse manner, because only there you will be able to have the big success. And we come from a very competitive environment to a more cooperational environment. That's the comment I would say. A very good thought. Diego? Well, I think that I agree with what Miguel is saying. There's a change. We need to teamwork, to be able to integrate different people, and we need to have different competencies to get good results. That's basic, because leadership has to be a lot more open to understand and to be able to incorporate new technologies. Nobody knows all the technologies, so leadership has to be able to understand the different technologies, different competencies, and to integrate and to be able to have good results. Yes, that's in that point of view is very interesting, not only to have a space for doubt or for learning. Undersecretary, well, I would like to add that it's a leadership that shouldn't be afraid of change. Our industry, and Miguel was saying in the beginning, 1 hour stopping time is very expensive, but we need to give change to innovation, to pilot plans, to entrepreneurs that have ideas that maybe can be applied. And many times we are afraid because of the impact it could have in final result. We need to break paradigms. We need to attract innovation, but also we need to apply it. And for that, we need space for that. And a leadership of the new generation requires to deliver opportunities and to lose fear on new ideas. And Tamara, we were talking about the leadership and for the inclusion of women in the industry, but I would like to change the question. What does a feminine leadership contribute to in the mining industry? Well, they have been recognized for being participative leadership. We've talked about this. It's necessary for this new transformation to be willing. This leader is not only a person that's there. If they can't emphasize to be empathetic, to be more horizontal, it will be harder to reach that transformation. So feminine leadership have that characteristic. And what do you think the change in the pandemic about exercising this leadership? First, noticing that not everything has to be in person. Many times people went to remote working, and we have this remote working and working from far away. And when we changed all this, it was an adaptation challenge that was so fast, so brutal, that those that were noticing that we needed to start working were the leaders that rose up and the ones that won in the end. But that's what we expect for the future. And it wasn't easy at all to tackle that process in this very difficult period. And Miguel Cardozo, the same question about from Hector Romero about these capabilities that new leaders need. Well, the common factor of the times is that
las posibilidades de hacer
the
cambios
possibilities of doing changes in a more accelerated manner. Change is key for the future, seeking to improve
en general.
the development of mankind in general. And with this, technology is reachable not only for companies but for people too, because so that what we have and we can see today is a strong change of the attitude of people
Su vida
about how to deal with their lives and their work. I think that there's
respecto de cómo
a
hacer las
constant paying of attention on how to do things better. And that's very positive. That's being open to change, looking to improve things, and also being open to the use of new methods, new technologies, and new ways of analyzing the problems that we face. I think that all of that together is
importante
changing
en el ser humano en general y obviamente
mankind in general,
la forma en que trabaja y vive.
especially the way that they work and live. Miguel, and what happens with companies that aren't able to adapt to those scenarios?
Bueno,
Well,
eh,
well,
creo que aquí
I
se
think that here we start applying the principle of natural selection.
yo pienso que
I think
aquellos
that
que se pueden adaptar
those that can't adapt
con el tiempo siempre
over time
van a desaparecer.
will tend to disappear. Yes, and it's interesting to have that point of view about the need of companies and the capabilities of adapting to these new scenarios. Diego. Yes, there's no doubt about that. If the COVID crisis has one positive impact for mining, it was that it forced us to be more innovative and to face with those problems. And what the Undersecretary said, the failure cost is very high in mining. If your plant stops for 2 hours because you want to introduce a new software, a new control software, or whatever, it's very expensive. So that made that all the options of new technology, automation, we invested a lot on that, but we never demanded the results. And now things change because there's no alternative there. So I think that mining lost the fear of incorporating innovation, and today these results will start becoming are already being seen. Well, we are reaching the closing of our first panel, and we would like to thank Edgard, Tamara, Miguel de la Ossa, Miguel Cardozo, virtually connected with us, and also Diego Hernández for joining us. Thank you very much. And we leave you invited to stay with us on our first day of Siemens Mineral Week. Remember that with the hashtag Minerals Weeks, you can send us your questions about the topics that we will be talking about. We will take a small coffee break, and after that, we will have the first presentation of Mauricio Avilés, project engineer of Candelaria. 15 minutes, and we'll be right back. Thank you.